How foolish you are. No matter how much fish you eat, your lack of intelligence will never improve. Stop saying unnecessary things and just focus on studying. You're the only failure in this house. Why are you so stupid? These were the harsh words my mother would constantly say to me since childhood. The way my mother treated me was clearly different from how she treated my sister. My grandmother, who felt sorry for me and was skilled in cooking, took me in. By eating the meals she prepared daily, an unexpected change occurred in me. My mother began to regret leaving me in my grandmother's care. My name is Caroline, and I'm a third-year student at a public high school. I'm not particularly good at studying, but I enjoy school life. My family consists of my parents and my talented younger sister, Julia. She excels in her studies, always ranking in the top 5 of her class, and is aiming to enter medical school. She has a slim and cute appearance, almost like an idol. On the other hand, I'm not good at academics. I'm chubby, have rough skin, and my appearance is far from idol-like. My mother always treated me harshly, constantly saying, "Your grades are really terrible. It's a waste to spend money on you, so make sure you go to a public high school." Since I was bad at studying, I ended up attending a low-level public high school that anyone could get into. My mother would often say, "Where does such stupidity come from?" Even I sometimes find it strange. Both my father and mother were outstanding students, and after graduating from prestigious universities, they met while working at a top company and eventually got married. My sister resembles them and is also very talented. According to my mother, I'm the only one who doesn't fit in with this family, a failure. Since I was a child, it was clear that my mother doted on my sister. Normally, older siblings pass down their clothes and toys to younger ones. However, in my case, I was always given cheap items from secondhand stores or hand-me-downs from others. In contrast, my sister was always dressed in brand new, beautiful clothes and played with the latest toys. While I envied her, my fear of being disliked by my mother kept me silent. My sister and I have completely different personalities and interests. I enjoyed being active outdoors, often getting injured or covered in mud, and getting scolded for it. In contrast, my sister Julia preferred the traditional way girls play, engaging in make-believe kitchens and doll playing. Julia, you are really ladylike and cute. You're completely different from Caroline. Don't become a barbarian like her, okay? My mother would often say to her in a gentle voice. I was deeply hurt by these words many times, but I had become accustomed to her cold attitude and sarcasm. Julia was very loved and pampered by our mother, receiving sweet cakes and candies from an early age. I was never given such treats. Once I asked Julia if I could have some, but she refused, saying, "No, Mom said you shouldn't eat sweets because you're not smart." Perhaps because she was raised this way by our mother, Julia was also cold towards me, and would sometimes say things that ridiculed me. At home, only my father was on my side, but he was not reliable as he did not defend me and never spoke up against my mother. However, my father never spoke ill of me and was always kind to me, so I trusted no one else but him. Looking back at my childhood, it wouldn't have been a surprise if I became rebellious and turned to delinquency, but surprisingly, I grew up to be quite bright and healthy. I had many friends. Although I was not good at studying, my school life was always enjoyable. In fact, school was more comfortable for me than home. The reason I grew up this way was perhaps largely due to the influence of my paternal grandmother, who lived nearby. My mother often told me to go to my grandmother's house to play. Now, I realized that my mother wanted to go out with Julia without me, considering me a nuisance. I deeply loved my grandparents' house. Welcome, Caroline. Today I baked a special cake. Let's enjoy it together. My grandmother always treated me warmly. She would offer homemade delicious snacks and cared about my worn clothes, gifting me hand-knitted sweaters. Caroline, isn't your mom buying you new clothes for those worn-out ones? She would ask. I was speechless. My grandmother didn't say anything more, but she treated me with kindness and compassion. The relationship between my grandmother and mother had never been good. Although they hardly ever saw each other, I heard about the situation from my father. Originally, they had planned to live together, but my mother unilaterally refused to accept help with household chores and child rearing. We were supposed to live together. But your mother refused. It's not like she does any housework or parenting properly. Caroline, you're always welcome to come to Grandma's house. I truly loved my grandmother. One day in my 3rd year of middle school, as usual, I visited her house. Seeing that I had gained weight over the years and my skin condition had worsened, my grandmother expressed her concern. Caroline, what do you usually eat? There are foods that are good for your skin. Maybe you could ask your mom to cook those. My mother rarely cooked and mainly provided me with cheap donuts for economic reasons. Eating donuts every day led to weight gain and skin problems. I couldn't control my hunger, and I would be scolded if I tried to use the fridge on my own. This was the state of my eating habits. In contrast, my sister was slim and had clean skin. My mother considered Julia's health and bought her expensive salads and side dishes when eating out. I felt discriminated against even in terms of meals, and during family meals I wanted to return to my room quickly, hastily swallowing the donuts. In the first autumn after I entered high school, my grandmother made an unusual visit. A relative gave us a lot of mackerel. We can't eat it all, so I want you all to have some. Mackerel is good for your health. She said this, bringing a lot of fatty, fresh mackerel. However, my mother reacted with annoyance. Mother-in-law, this is troublesome. We don't accept fish in our house. Even if we receive so much, it will just end up being thrown away. In fact, I don't hate fish. We never had fish at home simply because my mother didn't cook. Is that so? You're not fond of fish? It's too bad. Fish is good for both the body and the brain. My grandmother was disappointed. It was painful to see my beloved grandmother so disappointed, and I couldn't help but blurt out, "Actually, I like fish. I want to eat it." As soon as the words left my mouth, it was clear that my mother's sharp gaze was piercing me. How foolish. Your lack of intelligence will not improve no matter how much fish you eat. Stop saying unnecessary things and focus on studying. You are the only failure in this house. Why are you so foolish? My mother continued her tirade. My grandmother, visibly angry, said, "Excuse me, Tracy. Is this how you always treat Caroline? Do not interfere, mother-in-law. I am struggling because this child is a failure. I think she probably has some developmental disorder." Though I thought I was used to my mother's sarcasm, being called developmentally disabled still hurt. Grandmother grew even more indignant and said, "She's my dear granddaughter. How can I be irrelevant? How can you be so heartless toward your own daughter? Stop preaching to me. We don't even live together. I didn't have this child because I wanted to." Grandmother's anger reached a peak, and she was trembling. "That's enough. You don't deserve to be a mother. I cannot leave Caroline with you. Caroline, you are going to live with me." This incident led me to decide to live with my grandmother. I went straight to my grandmother's house, and later my father brought my belongings. With a sad expression, he stroked my hair and apologized. I'm sorry that things have turned out this way, making you sad." I didn't blame my father, but he clearly felt guilty. Considering my mother's personality, any admonition from him might have led to a backlash, affecting me. I feel it was destined for things to end up this way. Your father is really kind, but he's just too timid. He loves you very much, and today he tearfully asked me to take good care of you. His wife is self-centered and stubborn. I really don't know why he married her. I just listened silently to what Grandma said about him. And thus began my new life with Grandma. Grandma wakes up early every day, getting up at 5 a.m., to prepare breakfast for me and Grandpa. I was amazed at how lavish the breakfast she made were. "Grandma, this is incredible. Thank you for such an amazing breakfast. It must have been a lot of work for you." Her breakfasts always featured a variety of items, with an extensive menu. That morning's breakfast included a rich vegetable soup made from chicken and vegetable stock, scrambled eggs, and a salad with nuts. I was worried if I could eat so much, but it was more delicious than I imagined, and the more I ate, the hungrier I seemed to get, quickly finishing everything. "Grandma, this is amazing. I've never had anything this delicious before." Surprised by my reaction, Grandma asked, "Do you really think it's that special? What do you usually eat at home?" "I usually don't have breakfast. It's not prepared. If I feel like it, I might toast some bread myself. Mostly, I just eat donuts." Grandma sighed at my response and said, "Really? That mother of yours? Breakfast is the source of energy for the day, especially important during the growth phase. Eat plenty now, and make sure to go to school well prepared." With that, she served me a generous helping of soup. Every school day, Grandma prepared a lunchbox for me. My friends were also amazed by the lunchbox packed with homemade side dishes, colorful and lavish, exclaiming, "What an incredible lunchbox!" When I was with my mother, I never had a lunchbox and always ate almost expired bread. A deli lunchbox was a normal meal for me, and I had never eaten anything homemade by my family, so this change was very welcome. The dinners Grandma made were also exceptional, featuring whole grain bread and soups full of ingredients. The main dishes often included fish and sometimes meat, offering a varied menu that never got boring. Since I started living with Grandma, I frequently enjoyed ingredients I had never tried before, like quinoa and kale. "Grandma, your cooking is truly top-notch. I'm so happy to try so many types of food." Every time I expressed my amazement at the meals, Grandma smiled happily. "This is normal for me. It's just that she doesn't cook properly. I wonder what they are eating now." While talking, Grandma expressed her concern for the well-being of my father and sister Julia. "Living with my grandparents has been rejuvenating for me, and they have always been warm. After meals, when I share stories from school, they always encourage me. For me, who was always criticized and treated coldly, this home felt incredibly comfortable and utterly stress-free. I realized that a home should naturally be such a comfortable place. Surprisingly, my academic performance improved significantly. Though it's often said that my school is low-level, my grades jumped to above average. When I told Grandma about this progress, she was very pleased. "Grandma, my grades have improved a lot. I think I've become smarter. See, I've been making food that's good for the brain every day. It has paid off." That evening, Grandma celebrated happily and specially prepared a pumpkin pie, using a whole fresh pumpkin. While I was having another slice of pumpkin pie, I asked, "Can you tell me about the brain-boosting foods you mentioned earlier?" "I'm not completely sure myself, but there are many ingredients that are said to be good for the brain, like oily fish, nuts, spinach, and avocados. I try to incorporate them in a balanced way." The meals Grandma prepared indeed had evenly distributed nutrition, utilizing these ingredients. "Grandma, you've been cooking with so much care for me." "Not at all. Grandpa and I are also getting older, so we started this for our own dementia prevention as well. Seeing your grades improve really shows that our efforts have paid off." Grandma and Grandpa are indeed over 70 years old, but they are still vibrant and show no signs of dementia. What we eat makes our body. That's why, just by incorporating balanced and seasonal ingredients, we can live healthily every day. Since I started living with my grandparents, my physical health has clearly improved. I started being able to wake up early easily, and I am full of energy. My skin condition has also gotten better, and I realized it's thanks to Grandma's cooking. Thinking back to my diet when I lived with my mother, I was shocked at its poor quality. What kind of meals did your mom usually make? At home, meals were mostly store-bought bread and donuts, and Dad and Julia mainly ate ready-made side dishes from delis and sometimes instant noodles. I really can't understand that wife. How can she allow such a diet when there are growing children at home? Expressing this, Grandma sighed with disappointment. After a while, I decided to go back home for the first time in a long time with my report card in hand. I was nervous, but I hoped that Mom would be pleased, so I gathered my courage and went home. When I met my mother and sister Julia after 6 months, Julia exclaimed in surprise, "Hey sis, when did you become so pretty?" What happened? Did you change something?" Julia has always been sensitive to beauty. In fact, I too feel that my appearance has improved. Since living with Grandma, I have lost weight and become slimmer than before. My facial acne, which was once plentiful, has completely disappeared, and I also changed my hairstyle at a beauty salon I visited with Grandma. Previously, Mom cut my hair at home to save costs, so the change now is clear. Then Mom appeared, so I immediately showed her my report card. "Mom, look. I think I've become a bit smarter." However, Mom didn't acknowledge my achievements and dismissed them. "Why are you boasting? You just got decent grades at a low-level school. Nothing has changed." I felt foolish for having hoped for her approval. Mom returned my words coldly and expressionlessly. Yes, this was typical of her. During this conversation, Julia kept asking, "Why have you become so pretty? Tell me." I'm jealous. While Julia is naturally beautiful, she is also a curious girl in her growth phase, and she was very interested in my changes. There was never such a conversation when we lived together before, and although I was happy to talk like this, Mom's response was cold. "Hey, how long are you staying? Julia has an important exam coming up. I don't want your stupidity rubbing off on her, so go back soon." With those words, she refused to take my report card. "You don't have to say it like that." As I headed home, tears began to flow uncontrollably. Having had my hopes up, the cold treatment left me deeply disappointed, and I felt painfully out of place within my own family. I couldn't understand why this was happening. When I returned home, Grandma immediately embraced me, and we cried together. "Oh, what have they done?" I sobbed uncontrollably in Grandma's comforting embrace. After a while, Grandma began to speak calmly. "I originally planned to keep this a secret until you were 20, but I've decided now is the time to tell you. Please listen carefully." I didn't understand what she was about to reveal, but her serious expression made me brace myself. "Caroline, the people you always thought were your parents are not your real parents." "What do you mean?" "Actually, your real parents were very close friends of your supposed father." As I struggled to grasp what she was saying, Grandma continued with the details. "Your biological parents were in an accident before you were born. Your father died, and your mother was barely saved but in a very critical condition. She managed to have you delivered by cesarean section, wanting you to be saved at all costs. At that time, the man you know as your father rushed to her side. With her last wish, she entrusted him with your care, and he vowed to make you happy. Is that really true?" I was overwhelmed by the sudden revelation and doubted its authenticity. "It's true. You look very much like them," Grandma went on. "When the decision was made to adopt you, Tracy strongly opposed it. She said she could never accept a child that wasn't hers. She even suspected that you might be the result of an affair by your father, but that's impossible. Your father isn't capable of such deceit. In fact, you resemble your real parents who have passed away. Here I have a photo as proof." With that, Grandma pulled out an old album. The album contained a photo of my young father and his best friend from their high school days. The image was old and the features hard to distinguish, but I felt a resemblance to myself. "This is your real father and mother." After hearing the explanation, I began to understand why my mother's attitude toward me was so cold. Perhaps it was because I was not her biological child and had joined the family unwillingly. Learning this significant truth filled my heart with various emotions, and I was tormented by a complex sense of loss. "Actually, Caroline, your real parents were very much looking forward to your coming into this world. They had even decided on your name before you were born. The name Caroline is proof that you were deeply loved." Tears naturally started flowing uncontrollably. I've always felt so troubled, regretting my very existence, I confessed. Caroline, I'm truly sorry for all the pain you've endured. You are a cherished and wanted child in this family, Grandma said, as she hugged me tightly, tears streaming down her face. Having always sought my mother's love and lived to please her, I now felt that I no longer needed to do so, and my heart felt slightly lighter. The next day, my father visited Grandma's house. I'm really sorry for keeping the truth hidden for so long, he apologized. He then showed me photos of my birth parents on his smartphone. My birth father looked intelligent, and my birth mother had a warm, beautiful smile in the photos. Can you send these to my phone, I asked. Of course, Dad agreed, and he shared many memories of my real parents. I vowed to make you happy when I decided to adopt you, but I ended up causing you so much trouble. I'm sorry for being an inadequate father, he repeatedly apologized. I continued to live peacefully at Grandma's house, graduated from high school without going to university, and got a job in video editing locally. A happy report came from Dad after my sister Julia's university entrance exams. She was accepted into her first-choice medical school. According to Dad, Julia's reaction to her mother changed after the day I visited home with my report card. As she grew up, Julia began to question my mother's attitude towards me and her abandonment of household duties. Mother, once devotedly loved by Julia, was distanced by her and became withdrawn and isolated. Julia must be having a hard time living with Mom in such a situation. Let's invite her over for dinner next time, Grandma suggested. 4 days after making that promise, Dad brought Julia to our house for dinner. Julia, congratulations on getting into medical school, I congratulated her. Thank you, I'm so happy. Huh. Sis, did you get even cuter? Julia responded. Our conversation became even more lively than before. Really? Actually, losing weight, my clearer skin, and my changed mindset are all thanks to Grandma, I explained. What happened? Julia was surprised. However, once she saw the dinner Grandma had prepared, she quickly understood. Grandma, this is amazing. The omega-3 fatty acids from the fish, antioxidants from the vegetables, and nutrients from the whole grains are perfect. I can see why you've changed. Julia was impressed. You're really in medical school, aren't you? That's impressive. Don't you think it's amazing? With that, we laughed together as sisters. Julia had once adopted a condescending attitude towards me, influenced by our mother, but now that influence seemed to have faded, we could enjoy having a normal conversation. How happy it was for us to be able to laugh together so naturally. During dinner, the doorbell rang. Grandma opened the front door, and Mom burst in angrily, saying, "What are you doing?" "Just having dinner," was the reply. "Why do I have to be alone at home?" Mom was emotionally pleading. "I called you, but you didn't come out, so I left a note on the table." "Did you do that on purpose because I'm too sick to cook?" "Everyone is being mean to me." "Mom, I don't remember you ever cooking." "Who is being mean?" "Really?" Julia sharply retorted. Mom fell silent, then stared at me and said, "Ever since Caroline came back, our family has been strange. Julia becoming rebellious is your fault. Even though her successful exam is thanks to my upbringing, there's not a single thank you from her. It's all your fault." "Mom, it's not Sis's fault. I hated how you bullied her and overprotected me all the time. No matter how much I studied, you never made us good food, so I never felt like you were really trying," Julia said, as she enjoyed the delicious meal Grandma had prepared. "Why don't you try some of Grandma's cooking? It's really good, and eating this every day might even improve my study efficiency." "Julia, why would you say such a terrible thing? You don't understand how hard your mother has worked." As Mom expressed her outrage, Grandma calmly responded, "What struggles are you talking about? You've indulged Julia while being harsh on Caroline, and you haven't even prepared proper meals. What are you talking about? Julia's exam success isn't thanks to you, it's the result of her own efforts. It's Caroline's fault for causing problems, isn't it?" Mom showed her anger openly. "Mom, it's okay. I already know the truth. I know I'm not really part of the family, That's why it's understandable that I'm in the way, not liked, and treated coldly." What do you mean?" both Mom and Julia exclaimed in surprise. "Ah, you knew that?" "Yes, I've been raising someone else's child. You should be thankful. Maybe you were born from your father's affair, but I've endured it all this time." "I've said it many times, but that's not true," Dad argued with a tired voice. "If you doubt it so much, why not do a DNA test?" Julia suggested. Hearing this, Mom's expression hardened. "There's a reason I didn't want to do a DNA test. When we took in Caroline, I was pregnant and thought we would need to do a DNA test for Julia as well," Mom confessed. "What?" The whole family was shocked. "I've been thinking about it for a long time. I know who Caroline's real parents are. It's clear she doesn't resemble my son or Tracy. But what about Julia? Why doesn't she look anything like him?" Grandma questioned. "Tracy, could it be Dad?" started doubting Mom. "Are you doubting and hating me?" Mom retorted angrily. "Stop it," said the usually calm Grandpa as he raised his voice sternly towards Mom. At his stern rebuke, Mom seemed to lose her strength and broke down crying. "I'm not the bad one," Mom defended herself through tears. It then became apparent that this whole turmoil was sparked by the fact that Mom had Julia with an affair partner. Before giving birth, Mom wasn't sure whose child it was, but she seemed to think that either way, it wouldn't be a problem. "I can't believe it. Am I not really related by blood to Dad?" Sis, Grandma, and Grandpa Julia, shocked by this revelation, stood frozen. Meanwhile, Dad observed the situation very calmly and spoke. "I want a divorce," Dad announced. "Why?" "That's all in the past," Mom argued. "It's not just about the past. Your actions have been problematic for many years, and you've shown no signs of changing. Divorce is the only option," Dad replied. It was the first time I had seen Dad so angry. "Julia, I know this is shocking, but Mom and I are going to get a divorce. It's up to you to decide who you want to stay with," Dad added. I don't want to stay with Mom." "But if we're not related by blood?" Julia was clearly confused. "It's okay, Julia. I'm not related by blood either, but Grandma, Grandpa, and Dad are all my real family," I reassured her gently. "That's right, Julia. If you wish, you can live here with us," Grandpa added. Julia nodded tearfully at Grandpa's words. Following that, the divorce was finalized, and Dad and Julia started a new life at Grandma and Grandpa's house. Julia was initially shocked, but now she has regained her spirits. She is happy to be eating Grandma's home-cooked meals daily and is delighted by her improved health. Mom initially lived alone in an apartment, but gradually, she found it difficult to pay the rent and decided to move back to her parents' home. Her decision to return to her parents' home ultimately worsened her situation. Surprised and intensely angry at Mom's sudden return, her parents took the drastic measure of disowning her. After that, there has been no information about Mom's whereabouts or condition, but Dad mentioned that she once reached out wanting to repair their relationship. However, Dad firmly declined her offer and chose to cut off all contact with her. In my own life, a conversation with a colleague at work about cooking blossomed into a discussion about Grandma's homemade recipes, which led to the idea of broadcasting them in videos. As a result, we launched a video series under the concept of youth making Grandma's recipes, which garnered significant attention from many people. The videos became even more popular, especially after my attractive younger sister Julia appeared in them, earning support from many viewers. Julia later started her career as a doctor at a university hospital and stepped back from the video broadcasting activities, but she continues to lead a healthy and active life. I myself married the colleague I co-starred with in the videos, and we are now expecting a new life. As the birth approaches, I ask Grandma, "When the baby is born, can you teach me how to make baby food?" To which she replied gently, as always, "Leave it to me. I'll make plenty of delicious food to ensure the baby grows up healthy." The family table, where we all gather, continues to offer us enjoyable, delicious, and warm moments today. Both Grandpa and Grandma are healthy, and our everyday lives are always filled with happiness.